Guten Tag guys, in today's video we'll talk about PewDiePie
epic workout.
We'll look at his exercise execution and his program later on, but first I just want to say that I'm shocked, really shocked at how good his overall fitness mindset is.
Consistency is what matters more than anything.
To be honest, his views on fitness are probably better than most of the fitness YouTubers out there. Of course, his knowledge on programming and exercise execution is somewhat lagging, but his overall fitness message is phenomenal, and I just want to talk about that first. Even though he has a lot of money, he has a very cheap setup, and you could definitely make better gains with a bit more equipment and a bit better equipment, but he doesn't want to spend money on that, and that's fine. And that's fine. I think that for most of his viewers, this actually sends a good message in that they don't need an expensive home gym and a lot of trainers to get something done. They can get their fitness journey started just at home with a few dumbbells. And seeing him train at home alone is certainly much more motivating than seeing some rich schmuck in his $1 million home gym with 10 trainers that are all firing him up. Here he talks about the fact that he was kind of lazy for a while and is now getting back into pushing himself a bit more. And that's fine. But the thing is that while he was being lazy, he was still working out. He was still doing his routine. He was just not that serious about it and didn't push himself that much. And that's also a great message, that if you don't feel like it, if you feel lazy, you still do it. You just don't put all your effort into it.
Kind of like became a bit more lazy. I just did my workout for the sake of it. And I did that for a long time with the goal of just being consistent, you know, getting my workout done.
For him, the most important thing is consistency, and that's the fact overall. He doesn't really frame it as advice, but it's really good advice. It's not a problem if you don't work that hard for a certain time. It's not a problem if you sometimes don't push yourself, even if it's for months at a time. But it's very important to be consistent.
Consistency is what matters more than anything.
And he also says that he was okay with not making progress for a while he didn't feel like pushing himself.
I wasn't really pushing myself that hard, but I was also okay with that.
Not making progress is also something that every lifter experiences at a certain time. And it's very important not to be discouraged. Especially in the beginning, the progress comes so fast, you make so much gains, but at some point it just stops because you don't have as much time, or maybe just because you're at a higher level now and it just gets tougher and tougher to make more progress. And it's very important not to be discouraged by sometimes not making progress. If for a certain period of time you don't have as much time and energy to put into the gym, that's fine. You should just be okay with maintaining what you have and not making progress. And at a later time when you have more energy or whatever, you can just put more effort in the gym and then make progress again. Just like PewDiePie says he did just now.
But only until recently I've really started pushing myself more than I've ever have, and that's actually been really fun.
PewDiePie also mentions that he's not a big fan of training legs, and that's fine. But he still trains them, which is a very good message, that even though you don't enjoy some of the stuff, you should still do it at least to the minimum. There's no need to do a lot of the stuff you don't like, and there's also no need to push yourself really hard on the stuff that you don't like. But some things are kind of important and you should at least put some effort into them.
But I just feel like I don't need to do legs twice a week. That's just me. I think my legs look just fine and I'm not particularly that passionate about legs.
If you don't like training legs, then it's fine to just train them once a week and don't put that much effort into it. But I think it's a good message to still train them, even though you're not putting that much effort into it. And once again, he says that his main goal is consistency. And once again, even though he doesn't frame it as advice, it's very good advice.
And I gotta be honest, like my goal with my workout is to just be consistent more than anything. So while I am, you know, really pushing myself now, I am allowing myself to understand that even if I do later on go down again, that's totally fine as long as I'm staying consistent with it.
He also talks about sometimes almost having a spiritual experience during training, and I can certainly relate to that, and I think that shows that he is very serious into training now.
I'm enjoying my workout more now than ever. It's probably the closest thing to any sort of spiritual feeling that I could achieve. I love it, and I hope other people can experience it as well.
I also really love his 5th day of the week. He said he used to train legs there for the 2nd time, but he doesn't feel like doing legs again, which is fine, like I already said. And now he just has a
I can do whatever I want day.
And that's just great. It's absolutely fine to have a day where you don't have a strict program, where you just do what you feel like. Try something out. I think he does some sword fighting, whatever. I don't know what it is, to be honest. But it doesn't matter. Do anything. It can be anything you like. You can go rock climbing, you can just go swimming or whatever. It's great to have a day where you just do what you feel like, but you're still moving, you're still exercising. Now, just to be clear, this is very good as a part of your routine. I would not recommend having every day be a whatever I want day, because if you want to make progress, it makes sense to have a certain plan and a certain structure. But if you have 1, 2 or 3 days where you have the structure, it's absolutely fine to throw in days where you do whatever you want on the rest. He says he's not tracking his weights at the moment, but he still recommends to you that you track your weights. And that's good advice. And it would be good advice for him too to still track his weights, even though he says he knows what they are at the moment, but the weights progress. So it makes sense to still write them down, track them, so that you can see how they progress.
I used to write down my weights in this book, but I don't really feel like I need to do that anymore. It's really good to do that. I definitely recommend doing that, but I feel like I know my weights and I don't really have to.
Towards the end, he talks a little bit about philosophy and his mindset, and that's definitely worth watching.
As long as you're doing it, that's all that matters.
And his main point is that it's not so much about the end goal, but more about the act of working out itself. And I definitely agree. I feel the same way. It's much more important to focus on the journey and not just the destination. Because depending on the destination, you might not achieve it, or maybe your goals change. But if you focus on the journey, then you will always be happy.
I feel like my results with my workout doesn't matter as much as the point of me pushing myself.
Now, to be honest, I, and most of you too, I would assume, care about the goal, of course. And it's fine to care about the goal, but you should not care about the goal more than about the journey. The last point he touches on is that it's always better to do something than to do nothing. And I once again couldn't agree more. If you have almost no time or almost no energy or no equipment at all, it's better to just go on a 10-minute walk than to do nothing. Doing at least a little bit is always better than doing nothing.
Anytime you work out, you feel better. And it doesn't have to be strength building anyway. Like I said, on my 4th day, I do whatever, like kendo, that's a good workout. Even just jumping rope or doing a sport, you know, it's always better doing something than nothing.
And if you really have almost no time or no equipment, then do a few push-ups or go for a walk. It's still better than doing nothing. That's all for the mindset part of the video. And just like I said in the beginning, I'm very impressed with PewDiePie's opinions on training and on mindset. It's just great advice overall. And it's especially great advice for beginners. Do something. You don't need to do a lot of stuff. Be consistent and push really hard if you feel like it. Now let's look at his training and give him a few tips. Felix lists 6 days, of which one is a rest day. I assume that he forgot the 7th day and that is also a rest day. His 5 training days are a push day, although he doesn't call it that, then a leg day, then a pull day, although he once again doesn't call it that. Then he has the whatever day, and then he has a general upper body day, although it's very push focused once again. In general, the training split is very okay, I think, but it seems to be very push dominant. He doesn't detail all the exercises in the last day, but he mentions chest, shoulders and biceps, so it seems to be a push day with some bicep work in there. He says he doesn't want to train legs more, so training legs once a week is definitely fine, but I think he's definitely lacking some pull volume in there and especially back volume. A simple fix for that could be, instead of making the last day a mainly push day, just make it a general upper body day with at least as much pulling as you have pushing. Apart from that, a split with push, pull, legs and a general upper body day is very fine. And like I already mentioned, I really love the whatever I want day. I would classify Felix as an early intermediate, and because of that, I think that a upper-lower split would be preferable over the push-pull-leg split. An upper-lower split tailored to Felix could, for example, look like this. Upper, lower, upper, and then the whatever I want day. And just have 4 days. And you don't need to fit them into a 7-day schedule, really. But if he wants to have 5 days so that it fits nicely into a week, then you could just add a full body day that's mainly focused on arms. He tracks how long he works out and he tracks his rest time, which is good. And like I mentioned before, he should also restart tracking his weights. This way he can make sure that he's making progress. If you don't track your weights and your reps, then you just don't know if you're making progress. He said that he's already maxed out his dumbbells, and I think they are 90 pounds, which is 40 kilos, so that's very respectable for the dumbbell bench press. And in general, a 40 kilo dumbbell will be more than enough for most of your upper body exercises. For the lower body though, that's a different story. 80 kilos for the lower body is really not that much. So Pewds, if you're listening, then I would advise you to invest into a barbell. It makes lower body training much easier, and you can also progress further on your bench press and maybe also your rows. And for the rest of your exercises, you can just keep using the dumbbells you're using right now. And as long as we're talking about equipment, I know you don't like buying stuff, but buying a pull-up bar would really be a great thing. A pull-up bar costs like $20, I think. so that's much less than your power blocks costed, so $20 is probably affordable. And the pull-up bar really gives you a lot of great training opportunities, especially for the back. Now let's talk about exercises. On the first day, he does dumbbell bench press, then dumbbell incline bench press, and then dumbbell bench press partials. After that, he does overhead press, and then kickbacks and side raises. Yeah, that's a lot of horizontal pressing, especially for one day. And you're most likely not getting much out of the later sets, and especially out of the partials. And the exercises are very good. Except for the partials maybe, I don't think they're that useful here. And I also think that his normal bench press is not really a full range of motion, but it's not too bad either. What I would recommend him to change though is his elbow positioning on the presses. Not just on the bench press, but on the shoulder press as well. I would advise you, Pewds, if you're watching, to tuck your elbows a little bit. It makes the exercise much easier on the shoulder joint, and for example on the bench press it also makes it easier to go down all the way. So instead of having your elbows 45 degrees to the body, just put them down a bit so that the angle is somewhere between 70 and 45 degrees for both the bench press and the overhead press. For the overhead press, I also like the standing version more, but that's probably just my bias, and the sitting version is fine too. And then the supersets of kickbacks and side raises is fine, I guess. Kickbacks is not the best exercise, but it's also not hurting you in any way, and side raises are just great and a staple of almost every bodybuilding program out there. On the leg day he starts with squats, and he says he doesn't care about his technique, but I'm gonna critique it nevertheless.
With my perfect form, okay? I don't want to hear anyone complaining about my form because I don't care.
And I just need to say that yeah, it's not really a squat, it's almost of a squat deadlift hybrid, almost closer to the deadlift, and it looks like a trap bar deadlift. Actually, there's nothing wrong with doing squats this way. He braces, his spine is neutral. It's fine to do it this way, but it's just not a squat. Then he does deadlifts, and there is no video of it, but due to the fact that a squat was already more a deadlift than a squat, I assume that he meant Romanian deadlifts here, but I don't know how they look. But Romanian deadlifts and deadlift in general, great exercise. After that, he does lunges, which are fine, and then calf raises, which are fine too. On the pull day, he starts with a one-arm dumbbell row, then he does a double-armed dumbbell row, then he does overhead extensions, then he does a reverse grip dumbbell row, and then he does some curls, bicep curls, and hammer curls. Once again, just like with the first day, a lot of the almost same exercises. You really don't need 3 different kinds of dumbbell rows, and especially not in one day. And most likely you also don't need 2 different curling variations. You won't get much out of the later sets of the later exercises, and it's just a waste of time at a certain point. I would just switch some of the pressing from the first day into this day, and some of the curling and rowing from this day into the first day. And like I already mentioned, a pull-up bar would be great, especially for this pull focus day, so that your main pull exercise of the day could be the pull-up, and then you just use the dumbbell rows as more or less accessories. We already talked about the whatever day before, and on the last day he says he does chest, shoulders, biceps, and all the good stuff.
I really like to finish strong, and I do a workout that's a sort of a combination of the entire week, except leg of course, because leg is cringe. I do chest, I do shoulder, I do bicep, I do all the epic stuff, and it's my favorite workout.
I don't know what all the good stuff is for him, but it certainly seems like a push day with some biceps in there, which is fine in general, but like I already mentioned, there's only very little back volume in his plan, so having this day without any back work is not the greatest in my opinion. To sum it all up, Felix's thoughts about training are great, his mindset is nice, and he's definitely a good influence for many. But in terms of training, he still has a lot to learn. Now, I don't know if he's interested in learning more about it, but he doesn't claim to be an expert, and he doesn't claim to know what he's talking about. So to be honest, I feel like it's fine if he's not interested in learning more, because he also doesn't project that he knows all of it. That's all for today's video. I really hope you've liked this format, and maybe PewDiePie saw it. No, most likely not, but would be great. I hope I helped you if you saw it. That's all for today's video. As always, I hope you liked it. If you liked, please leave me a like and subscribe. Also, write some comments, it helps the algorithm. You're also very welcome to leave me some criticism down in the comments below. This was Fed, thanks for watching.